Hello, my friends. I've been getting a lot of questions about my thoughts and reactions and sort of basically a review for all that being said about HallowFest. So at Six Flags Great Adventure, I believe they've already started one in over Georgia as well, and there might be a couple other parks that are doing this. However, I've been to the one at Six Flags Great Adventure. I went last weekend a couple times, and I just wanted to give you guys my reactions to this. Now, there's a couple of pros and cons for sure, but before I get into that, I kind of want to quickly just answer a couple of questions that I've been getting since I started live streaming. Unfortunately, without like a media pass or something like that, I cannot live stream inside the mazes. I would absolutely love to be able to do that, but right now it's not in the cards unless you guys can help me get to 1,000. Then I gotta apply, and maybe that's a goal that we can all reach together in October, maybe. I've been pushing pretty hard, but we'll see. Anyway, that aside, just because I get that question a lot, let's talk about the pros of HallowFest 2020 here at Great Adventure. Now, notably, it is not Fright Fest. I think that they wanted to kind of keep it as a separate thing because they had to scale back the entire event themselves. Like, I don't know if it's like protecting their brand because Fright Fest is so big, but now it's HallowFest, which is kind of similar. I think there was a Hallow something type of event that was initially happening way back in the day. So now they have this third Halloween event that's like now super scaled back. They have 3 mazes. They have, well, outdoor mazes, the only outdoor mazes that they had even last year. So they were able to do those because it's possible to socially distant and it's outside, so there's less risk. I'd imagine if it were indoors, then there'd be all types of restrictions. So they're working with what they got, working within the guidelines. They do have an indoor mirror maze, which is easy to kind of make sure you can actually do something like that because there are no scare actors inside. The scare zones are pretty open. I think that they've done a brilliant job with, especially with the Lady of the Lake Cemetery. I think they've done a really good job with that one in terms of, like, they put all of the scare actors behind the fences. Usually they're roaming right next to you around everybody, and because it's such a tight space, it usually meant it was a really cool scare zone. However, here, because of social distancing, all the scare actors are placed behind a fence, so they've also been given something to step on or stomp on, like to make some noise to kind of startle you. Then they do pretty well by keeping the main area around the fountain sparse. Then the area in front of the Joker is pretty open as well. There is kind of a main drag that goes from the Joker up to the fountain, and they kept that pretty open, I would think. It can be hard at times to socially distant in the scare zones because there are some bottlenecks. I think they did their best job to kind of avoid as much of the bottlenecks as possible, and it just wasn't possible with that last scare zone, Clown Town, which used to be, I think, Psycho Circus or something like that. I'm not remembering the exact name, and I apologize. But over in the boardwalk area, when you have people standing there for the games, people standing for the, is it the slingshot? I hit record and I start forgetting what things are called. I apologize. But over in the boardwalk area is where the clowns used to be, and unfortunately with social distancing rules in effect, they would never have, that place would have been a mob scene, unfortunately, with the inclusion of the games and everything else, all the other activities that are going on, and I think there's also food in that area. So that's been moved over in front of Batman the Ride, and I think that utilizes the space really well. So, for the positives here, we have some sort of Halloween event. There's so many different haunts and stuff that have been canceled this year, and it's just nice to be able to get those spooky vibes here because they're few and far between to be found. There are a couple of things. I think upstate New York has something. There are a couple like farm related haunts that are still happening. A couple of drive-through experiences that are pretty cool, but for most of this area, it's slim pickings. So that kind of leads me into the cons, although I'll take 1 second to mention that they have performers that are kind of performing sporadically in different, wherever they can find the space, basically. It seems like they've gotten carte blanche to do what, like, just find a space that's sort of got a little empty, like, there's not too many people there. People can kind of come over and watch and socially distant in that way. And they perform a quick thing, maybe no more than 5 minutes, and then they walk to another part of the area they're working and do another short performance. And I thought it was really cool. I think that that's a great way to add some life to the scare zones and to the park, while trying to be conscious of, avoiding people from congregating like they would with a stage show. And I guess the last thing I'll mention is they did include some family activities like a trick-or-treat trail and stuff like that. So that's a bonus. I know that the one in Over, Georgia, that event is a little more robust. I think they have a costume contest and a couple other things like that. Maybe there's just, differences in the state guidelines that have to be met. I know that Georgia's are a little more lax, if I remember right, whereas New Jersey's are pretty strict. But anyway, because of the lack of events that are happening, this is moving over to the cons now. The fact that there aren't that many events going on meant that I feel like the entirety of the tri-state area in Pennsylvania descended on Six Flags Great Adventure. Last Saturday, the first Saturday of Fright Fest, that was the most packed the entire operating season, so since the 4th of July weekend, that I have seen Six Flags. The parking lot was just completely full. I assumed that they were capping capacity because of the reservation system and all of this, and it wasn't up until the day after, on that Sunday, that somebody actually checked my reservation for the very first time after having been there about 5 times or 6 times. So when I tell you this place was packed, it was just bursting at the seams. There were waits on the roller coasters, especially the more popular ones like El Toro, of upwards of an hour and a half. One of my friends had a flash pass that showed the wait for El Toro around 50 minutes, and this was probably around 5 or 6 o'clock, so like right in the middle of their operating hours, which I should mention on the weekends is 2 to 10 p.m., which doesn't give you a lot of time to do much if you're trying to ride roller coasters and also get in the mazes. The problem I'm seeing is that because they have outdoor mazes that are only operating from dusk until the park close, or because we don't have daylight savings time, it's not getting dark that early, it only is operating for like 3 to 4 hours, which means you have a big crowd, you have to pay the upcharge for the mazes, which is $20 for one night. You have a wait time of upwards of 1 hour for a single maze, and then you only have 3 to 4 hours to actually do those mazes. It seems like you're set for disappointment. You're set up to not have the best night or not have a satisfying evening if you're going to be dealing with that. So I hope that Six Flags intends on extending their hours at least to 11. I know that they're planning on doing that on Friday nights in October, but I hope that we see a little nudge in either direction, expand to 9 or 10 hours for the day, so that families have a chance to do stuff during the day, and maybe they will leave before 6 o'clock, and then there's more time. Like, they need to spread out the crowds. They need to spread out these crowds because the response and popularity of the event is super overwhelming and super great to see, but they're not ready for it. I think they overwhelm themselves, really, because what else can you really do? Everybody wants to do something that's Halloween related, and maybe this is just because it was the first weekend and people wanted to check it out, but the wait times were rough, really long for the rides and for the mazes, and the amount of time that you got to see things in the dark, got to see the mazes, was very short. I like the mazes, don't get me wrong. The mazes are just as good as they were last year, despite them having to make modifications so that the scares were socially distant. I think they made it work with the choices that they made, and I'm not going to elaborate too much on it so you can experience it for yourself. It just boggles my mind that they didn't anticipate this type of response, because I know that attendance has been light in the beginning of the operating season, and most of the summer it was light. It was easy to get on rides. Most rides were like 20 to 30 minute waits easily. So now it's getting crushed and I don't know what they're gonna do. I hope they respond in some sort of way. But that all being said, I'm still having a great time when I go. Because I have the membership, I do use the front of line pass and kind of keep it at that. And I took advantage of getting the one pass to a maze per visit, so I haven't paid the upcharge. I think that had I not had all those perks, it might be a very different feeling from me in this video. If I had paid the $45 just to get in the park, even if I had gotten in at 2 p.m. and had 8 hours in the park, regardless of what you do, you can't control when the sun goes down, so you only have that amount of time to do the mazes. And you would have to pay a $20 add-on for that, which means without counting like food or anything else like that, you're looking at $65, which usually it's no big deal because the lines aren't that short, but now, because everything's like super condensed and everybody's packed into, there's only 3 mazes, so everybody's going to one of those. They're kind of being funneled, all the crowds are being funneled to the same mazes. It's really tough to have a satisfying evening, and I'm just gonna leave it at that. It's really tough. I can see the challenge there. Thankfully, I'm in a position where I can go repeatedly, and so that kind of softens that. So those are just my like little criticisms about it. I still think it is a lot of fun, and I hope that they expand their hours in response to the overwhelming popularity of the event. So all that being said, I hope you found this helpful. I wasn't trying to ride the negativity train, but it's easy for me to kind of criticize some of the things where they can improve, because they're easy things to improve, you know, extending hours, operational hours. They're already planning on doing it on Fridays. Maybe they can do it on the weekends, because they only stand to profit more and to increase customer satisfaction. That's hopefully the point that I've made. One thing that I forgot to mention is that the scare actors are all wearing masks, and they've done an excellent job with it, because at night you can barely tell if they're wearing masks or not. They've done some sort of combination of like airbrushing and prosthesis and stuff like that. And in addition to that, shout out to them, because I see that they have a regular mask tucked in underneath that. So they really pulled it off with the scare actors. Definitely give them credit for that. So to end on that positive note, thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you next time, and I hope you go make your own adventure. Bye.